Good afternoon, my friends. Welcome back to the channel. Hitchhiking Yeti here. Thank you so much for joining me today on this very overcast and kind of rainy, dreary day. But I think it's going to be a good day to go out and do a little grave hunting. I'm talking about there is a couple of graves over in Rowan County. I'm in Iredell County right now in the Statesville, North Carolina area. Matter of fact, right here behind me used to be a place called JR Tobacco. My first job right there when I was a teenager. Long gone now. They destroyed it, demolished it, and they're doing a lot of that around here because all these shops right here, this little strip mall area, the Dragon Golden Chinese restaurant, which was a staple for me when I was a teenager back in the day. I used to like to go over there and eat. But all these places right here are going to be removed in the next few months. Even the Rack Room Shoes, all the way up through there. Matter of fact, there's doing some demolition today up there around the old laundromat here in Statesville. But today's vlog is not going to be about that stuff. It's going to be about some graves. We're going to go check out, supposedly, there's some pirate graves over in Rowan County. I just learned of this several weeks ago. A friend of mine told me about them, said, did you know there's some pirate graves in Rowan County, North Carolina? That's kind of close to where you grew up. And I said, no, I did not. And he said, well, yeah. He said, Rowan County, think about it. That's like over 200 miles inland from the coastline of North Carolina, where you would think you would find pirate graves. But no, they're actually supposedly, rumor is there's some pirate graves in Rowan County. We're going to go try to find them today. I do have a name, a church name. We're going to go check that out. And while I'm in Rowan County, and speaking of graves, kind of would go along with the theme of what we're doing today. I actually covered a grave site of a man about 2 years ago, right when I was really starting my YouTube channel. And it was supposedly the man that was buried in that grave was the right-hand man of Napoleon from France that was buried here. He actually faked his death, moved to America, changed his name, and was living here. And then when he passed away, they buried him in Rowan County. Now, they have actually dug his grave up, excavated his grave a couple years ago, took some DNA, did some testing, and I always thought one day we would come back, kind of maybe talk about that, see what they found out. Is it really Napoleon's right-hand man? I'm going to tell you that today. We're going to get into that. We're going to go check his grave out. So that's pretty much what we're into today. It's going to be a graveyard day, very overcast, dreary. We're going to make the best of it. I have myself a coffee in hand. So let's go ahead and get our day started, friends. This should be interesting. Okay, as I travel toward our first destination from Statesville, I come across this old abandoned home. This two-story brick house up on this little hilltop. That is interesting. That is fascinating looking. Wonder what happened there. You just never know what you're going to see when you get off the interstates here in the South, especially here in North Carolina. You're going to see all kinds of interesting things along the roadsides. And right here we have this old war helicopter right here off of US Highway 70. That is so cool. All right, welcome to the Third Creek Presbyterian Church here in Rowan County. It's been several years since I have stepped foot on these grounds and checked out the grave site of Peter Stewart Ney, often linked to Marshal Michael Ney, who is a native of France, a soldier of the French Revolution under Napoleon. But we're going to take a little walk out here. I want to tell you a little bit about this man. And I think it's very fascinating because when I was here last time, about a week before I did my video about this gentleman, there was a group that came out here and actually, with permission, dug his grave up and run some DNA tests on it to get some results out there in the world. Is this guy really who people thinks he is? There's always a lot of mystery around Peter Stewart Ney and who he really was. So here in Rowan County, back in the 19th century, he was a school teacher. And he died on November 15th, 1846. and was laid to rest right here at the Third Creek Presbyterian Church. Matter of fact, if you walk up here and check out his grave site, they actually have a in memory of plaque, and on the plaque itself, as the rain really starts to pick up, Peter Stewart Ney, a native of France and a soldier of the French Revolution under Napoleon, who departed this life November 15th, 1846 at age 77. So many locals for generations believe that Peter Stewart Ney was actually Marshal Michael Ney, one of Napoleon's most trusted commanders, and was known as bravest of the brave. So the legend says that Marshal Ney escaped execution after the Battle of Waterloo in 1815. Some versions even claiming the firing squad used blanks and he fled to America to escape. So as you can imagine, there's certain coincidences that really fueled the myth of this story. People noted that Peter was the name of Marshal Ney's father. Stewart resembled his mother's name, feeding rumors he was the same man. Ney spoke fluent French and told stories about Napoleon's campaigns, and some former students even reported military-like discipline, which added to the mystique. So in 2023, a French research team visited Rowan County and conducted a DNA test, an archaeological type of investigation to test whether Peter Stewart Ney could truly be Marshal Michael Ney. So after the French research team completed their DNA testing, they come up with the answer of, this is highly unlikely, this is not the famous Marshal Michael Ney from France. Giving you that little bit of news, a little bit of information from their DNA testing. Peter Stewart Ney is not Marshal Michael Ney, which makes me wonder, will they ever change this plaque right here talking about Peter Stewart Ney and he was a soldier of the French Revolutionary War? I wonder if they're ever going to change it, because on here it still says under Napoleon. He served under Napoleon, so that would be not true now. Which that's going to pretty much wrap it up. Next up, we're going to go to another church, and I would love it if the rain would just chill out a little bit, and that was the wind starting to blow. That's never good. A lot of rain, wind, always kind of concerns me of trees falling down and things like that. Here in the clay of North Carolina, that does happen from time to time. Even though it's breezy, it's not super blustery, so maybe we'll luck out with that. But I am really interested in going to this next church, which I've never been to before, and go hunt down these pirate graves. I'm really interested to see the pirate graves. I have seen a little pictures, and my wife showed me a little thing on social media about them. I don't even think they have any names on these graves, and they might not even really have a year. The graves are really just marked as skull and crossbones, so that's very piratey. You know, that is definitely a thing. So let's go ahead and move in that direction, and I'm ready to get in the truck and get dry, maybe even turn the heater on, because man, this rain is very cold. So let's go ahead and head in that direction, go check us out some pirate graves. Arr! I know it's still raining, but it looks like it's getting a little lighter off into the distance there, so that makes me feel a little bit better. I think I've had my fill of rain today. You guys know that I love abandoned places. Look at this old structure. That is awesome. We're only about 2 miles away from our next stop to go check out the pirate graves. Okay, and welcome to the Thyatira Presbyterian Church Cemetery. This place actually dates back away, because as you can see right up there, it says it was established December 10th of 1750. It is one of the oldest cemeteries here in western half of North Carolina. And the main thing we're here to say is this. Look at that. Pirate graves. That's what it is all about today. So let's go ahead and make our way up to the graveyard, or the cemetery if you will, and go see if we can find these graves. Okay, so I made my way over here to the back side of the church, and that is where you will enter the graveyard. And I gotta say, I love graveyards when they have like this, the stone wall. I just think it looks cool. Here they have a little sign that says visitors welcome, daylight hours, no trespassing after dark. So I gotta say, I'm really not sure where to start this hunt at. I would imagine pirate graves are probably going to be somewhere in the backside of this graveyard, but you can see it is quite extensive. But I do like these pathways they have where you don't have to like on a rainy day like this, you don't have to walk through the grass, the wetness and everything. You can kind of walk on these little walking paths. So that definitely makes stuff a little bit easier as we search. Okay, so it's definitely not up here in the upper area. So it must be way down here in this area of the cemetery, probably furthest away from the church, right? So let's talk a little bit as I walk. Unfortunately, I got to walk in the grass now because there's no pathway here. So let's talk about the folklore a little bit to these pirate graves, how it all happened. So supposedly these graves of these 4 pirates who allegedly left the coastal of North Carolina moved inland to Rowan County to kind of masquerade or become farmers. For years they got away with this, and then eventually they were discovered and then tried and then hung. And then the only way they were permitted to actually be buried here in this cemetery is if they put skull and crossbones on their headstones to kind of mark them of shame because they were wicked men. So I told you the most popular story, which is the farmer story, but yet another story is that they was actually captured at one point by the British Navy, and then they escaped. And they made it this far inland before they was finally exposed, and then they were tried and executed. So the farmer thing might have not even happened. Okay, I made it all the way back here to the back. I walked all the way down around this corner. I looked at these graves over here, nothing. I walked all the way down and around through here, nothing. I mean, you can just see the age and how old looking some of these stone, like headstone markers are. There's no writing on them or anything, but no skull and crossbones. But I just found them. They're actually, you have to walk in just a little bit into the cemetery to get to them. And right here they are. Here is the supposed pirate graves here in Rowan County. And that is awesome. And you can also look for, I don't know, people's been bringing change. You know, they got pennies down there, which you better hang on to those pennies, man. They're not making pennies no more. But right here's all 4 of them. As I just kind of go through and show you what they look like. Each headstone. That in there looks cool. It's almost like it's got some mossy kryptonite growing on it. Just kidding. And right here, this last one don't even have a skull. It's just got crossbones. And each one of them has change littered right in front of it. That is pretty cool. I was beginning to wonder if I was going to find them. But right here they are, all 4 of them. Right there in the middle of the screen. The 4 supposed pirate graves. Or are they pirates? So a lot of historians and experts will tell you that while these stories persist and the markers are locally known as pirate graves, there's no strong historical evidence confirming they are actual pirate graves. So in cemetery history and gravestone studies, skull and crossbones symbols were widely used in the 1700s and the early 1800s as memento mori, reminders of death, not necessarily indicating piracy. So some historians suggest that the markers could represent other causes of death like disease or symbolic warnings to grave robbers rather than signs of pirate burials. All right, my friends, that will pretty much do it for me today. I hope you enjoyed today's vlog, visiting some of these cool cemeteries located here in Rowan County, North Carolina. I just spoke to a gentleman that kind of oversees this cemetery, a local guy, and we was talking about the pirate graves a little bit, and we was also talking about Peter Stewart Ney, who was the first cemetery we went to go check out his grave. You know, Napoleon's right-hand man. And we talked about the DNA testing a little bit. And he was actually over there when they were, you know, when they dug the grave up. And he said, do you know that was not the first time they dug his grave up? And I said, no, I did not know that. And he said, listen to this. He said the first time they dug his grave up, they could not find anything. They could not find any kind of bone fragments or anything to run any test on. And then they came back years later, and then that time they was still having a hard time finding bone fragments. They had this, he said they had this little like sifting machine over there where they would kind of sift the dirt around looking for bone fragments, anything to test. And he said the guy over there who was doing the digging and stuff, he was singing a song, and he said that he asked somebody like, what song is he singing? He said, I'm digging up bones, I'm digging up bones. It was a Randy Travis song. That guy, he was over there singing that song while he's digging up Mr. Nay's remains pretty much. So, you know, graveyard people always have their own humor, that's for sure. And, but anyway, I told him, I was like, well, since they didn't find any match, or they claimed it wasn't really him, how do you know that that piece of skull fragment they took out of the ground was actually Peter Stewart Nay's? Like, he said they don't know. They just found a bone fragment. They don't know for sure if it was him, because they were just sifting through. You never know what bone fragment you just got. Could have been from a neighboring grave. Who knows? So maybe the legend is still there. Maybe that is maybe, you know, Marshall Nay. You don't know. You don't know. And he said that's reason probably why that church will probably never remove that plaque, because when we was over there, I said, hey, since they proved it that it wasn't him, or that didn't match, I wonder if they're going to remove this plaque on his mausoleum. So that's the reason they're not going to remove the plaque from the mausoleum, because it might not have been his bone. Who knows? But all that being said, I am done today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Just wanted to give you that little bit of extra information here as we close the vlog out about Mr. Nay and him possibly still being Napoleon's right-hand man, maybe. Who knows? I don't know. It's fun to believe sometime. But all that being said, I'm done. Thank you so much for watching. And until next time, friends, I am the Hitchhiking Yeti, and I'll hope to see you in my next adventure. Y'all stay safe. Hope to see you all again soon. This was a good one today. We might have got to see some pirate graves. And that kind of makes me happy.